All right, today we're talking about how to take a business from 0 to 60 employees in just a few years. My guest today is Carson Wagner. I'll tell you more about her in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. And you know, if you listen every week, which I hope that you do, we have smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs every week. We've had Netflix, Kiko's, YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard, Lending Tree. We had Gusto a few weeks ago, Redfin, you name it. Check out the archives and you can learn all about them. And of course, this episode brought to you by our company, Rise25, and our platform, Podcast Copilot, where we help B2B businesses get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. And you can learn more by going to rise25.com, or you can email our team at support@rise25.com. All right. So excited to have you here today, Carson. I met Carson recently at a training in Kansas City, and she's based on the West Coast like me, out of Reno. She is the founder and CEO of Lifetime of Love Nannies, which she founded at age 19. And she founded it to help with this gap in inclusive childcare services, found that there was a need in the local market in her Reno area, has since expanded to other types of services and to other locations, including one in Las Vegas, and now employ over 60 people and help provide care to people ages 0 to 100. And so we're going to talk a bit about that. But Carson, great to have you here. And I love to ask people about any entrepreneurial ventures they had as a kid. And you had one that was maybe not quite as profitable as Lifetime of Love Nannies is, but you had this idea of like selling seeds. And I guess you're like Johnny Appleseed, going around and planting seeds in people's yards and then hoping they're going to pay you. Explain to me how that worked.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. Yeah, back when I was probably 9 or 10, I had got one of those little seed packets that are like 99 cents, and it's just assorted flowers or whatever the case may be. And I thought it was a brilliant idea to just bag them and act like I created the seeds myself, and then go up to neighbors, knock on their door if they didn't answer, plant the seeds, and then ask them for $5 later. So not very profitable. I don't think I ever got $5, but that's definitely when I realized that I can make money doing just about anything as long as I have something in hand.
And so you provide childcare now. Did you then later, when you were, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, get into doing childcare and babysitting like many people do? I know I did that around that age.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would babysit for just neighbors, family, friends, whoever needed it on a Friday date night. And then shortly after, I started making a career out of it and, nannying and being, long-term with certain families and individuals.
And one of the things that kind of shaped you as a kid is your parents actually got divorced, and your mother, I guess, didn't have any source of income. Your father did. And so you saw your mom go from relying on your father, getting a divorce, and then really struggling. And that kind of inspired your motivation to work for yourself or to be able to support yourself. Talk a little bit about that impact.
Yeah, definitely just seeing my parents together and then split. They split when I think I was like 15 or 16 is when it happened and was long overdue. And my mom, just seeing her go to college at the same time that I did to get her paralegal degree, and just when I'm building my life, seeing her have to rebuild when she's in her 50s was definitely something I was just like, I never want that. I never want to have to be able to rely on someone else financially. And that's when that really kicked things into gear for me and drove me to, find something that I was passionate about and could also be sustainable for my financial needs and, not have to rely on anyone.
Now, it can be a big shift for people to go from, providing a service, which you were, childcare, nannying, to then having someone come to you for that service and say, well, actually, let me have, this other person provide that service. So how did you make that shift? Did you have like more families coming to you than you could fulfill and started, taking others or finding others, recruiting others for them? How did that work?
Yeah, when I very first started, I was in college. I dropped out. I just saw a need that was accepting to all kids of all capabilities within our community because we lack resources for special needs families in particular. And so I just dropped out, got my business license, called my family and was like, hey, I got a business license. They're like, for what? And I'm like, nanny service. And I had started it and I was just going on Facebook. I seriously had flyers. I walked out my door, took a right, and just started going door to door and just trying to find people that needed reliable childcare that they could count on, with quality childcare providers. And I just really loved it. Like it was a huge passion. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed finding the clients. And then I remember I had my first client was like, okay, where do we sign? And I'm like, sign? Like, what do you mean sign? So it was,
I should have brought something.
Yeah, I should have brought a pen, paper, sign. So Rocket Lawyer was my best friend when I first started. And just like having my first employee and being like, how do I get paid? And I'm like, great question. Just kind of trial and error throughout it all for me.
Yeah. Now, one of the challenges is, let's say that you are providing a service for whatever amount. Let's say it's $20 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever, right? A family hires you, a client hires you. But then in order to make that shift to bringing in others, let's say you get 10% or whatever it is, 20% or whatever it is, you got to get that number of clients in order to match your income that you were making before. So how long did it take you to get to that point where you weren't the one fulfilling on the service anymore and you were actually, the matchmaker and making a margin off of the other people that were working for you?
Yeah, most definitely. I would say it took me about 3 months to get to the point where I was actually actively hiring and had work for the people I was hiring. When I first started, my nannies knew that, hey, this is a brand new startup. I may have 40 hours for you one week and 10 the next. And it just wasn't consistent. So that turnover rate was really high when I first started. And so I would find myself, I was taking all the calls. I was the only, admin staff on site. And so I would be getting up at 5 a.m. to go to shifts until 10 a.m. and then going into the office and finding new clients and hiring and kind of just doing the full wheel until we got to the point when COVID started. All of the childcare facilities had shut down. So we went overnight from having maybe 5 employees to skyrocketing to, probably like 30 within a year.
So all these parents, their kids were in childcare facilities, and then the childcare facilities shut down, and they still needed to work, and they needed someone to watch their kids. So then they called you.
Exactly. We were able to stay providing care to essential workers, and right place, right time when I started my business, because that took us from being here to just skyrocketing really within the matter of a few months. It was pretty incredible.
And what were some of the challenges during that period of time when you're like, was the challenge finding the right staff? Was it just managing the inflow? What were the challenges for you?
Yeah, I think safety was a really big one. Everyone had this concern, especially when COVID was so new and we didn't really understand what it was and what was going to happen with the world. It was such a scary, scary time for us. That I think just finding workers that felt comfortable leaving their home, and then also finding families that felt comfortable with an individual in their home was a big challenge. And when when COVID very first made its presence in our world, we had families canceling left and right and just keeping their memberships active for us to keep the lights on, which I'm grateful for those people that did to this day. But it was definitely a scary time just having to navigate what that was going to look like for us and not knowing if we're going to be able to stay standing. But shortly after, when, firefighters, doctors, people who were still essentially working within the community that couldn't take that time away and the community needed them more than ever, we were able to provide that care to them, which was a great feeling.
And talk about that membership model, because a lot of, domestic staff placement agencies don't have a membership model. So how did you arrive on that? How did you figure out that model?
Yeah, so we don't do placements, so we don't charge a large fee up front and take it. We can, but we prefer not to. We employ all of our staff. They're all W-2 employees with us. And then what the families do is they pay a membership to have access to our online portal that they pay on a monthly reoccurring basis. And that basically waives their booking fees and gives them access to a lower hourly rate per hour and then 24/7 around the clock care.
And so did you build your own online portal? Because that sounds like a large undertaking. What was that like?
No way. We tried a few different ones, and then we fell across Engine Hire, who's been fantastic. The CEO actually flew out and helped us when we had a large event and needed some help with the software. And it's fantastic. We reach out to them and just say, hey, here's what's needed. And they just kind of build as we go. And it's been really cool to be with kind of a startup in that sense too, to where they're still building their software, to where we kind of have a say of, what's needed or what we'd prefer, and they make it happen.
That's always a great relationship, as long as they stay in business, if it's mutually kind of supportive of one another. And then, a lot of companies experience a ton of growth with COVID, maybe not right away, but in the latter half of 2020 or 2021, and then a crash later. Did that happen for you?
Yeah. I wouldn't say so. I mean, our numbers, we've been growing at least 20% since I opened each year in revenue. So I would not say so. I think that the needs of childcare have definitely changed within the 4 years I've owned my company. Now there's large corporations such as Tesla or Starbucks that partner with third parties to provide childcare as an incentive for when their kids are sick, or maybe it's Memorial Day and their daycare is not open. And then we partner with those third parties to offer that backup care. And I didn't know much about that when I first started. Maybe I just wasn't educated within that field. But yeah, it's definitely ever changing. I mean, we do nannies in casinos. If families want to go downstairs and, have fun, we'll send a nanny to make sure their kids are well taken care for in the hotel. We do large event corporate care. We're going down to Florida to provide a kids camp in June. I mean, there's just so many different hands we can put ourselves, so many different pots we can put our hands in. Within childcare, which I definitely did not envision when I first started. I just thought, hey, nannies, babysitters, in-home care, but it is so much greater than that.
And it diversifies the business and kind of minimizes your risk as a business, because you have these kind of larger customers that might provide, might account for 10% of your revenue, 15, 20% of your revenue.
Most definitely. Event care, we just started that last year. We have the greatest margin within event care. I mean, it's anywhere from 60 to 80%. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
We love event care. The backup care is fantastic too. Pet sitting, the housekeeping, just diversifying, like you said, is definitely something I work on. And then also opening our new location, which we did last year for Las Vegas. That was definitely a shock to me.
Talk about that, because that's not so easy. And I forget exactly how far it is from Reno to Las Vegas. Let's call it 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. That can be hard to open something so far away.
Yeah, it's like a 7-hour drive. It's pretty far. And I didn't know anything about Las Vegas. I've lived in Reno for such a long time. I just feel like I really learned this market well as a consumer, from a consumer standpoint. And opening in such a different city that's known for such different things than Reno is, on a bigger scale, I found a lot of different setbacks on managing the location. From our headquarters is here in Reno, all my office staff is here. Managing a location completely off-site was definitely something that took getting used to, because I'm a very hands-on entrepreneur, and not being able to be as hands-on out there was a very big shift. But we've definitely been able to work through that, and we've loved the outcome.
Did you work settle on a rhythm of some sort, or a reporting process? How do you manage it from afar?
Yeah, we basically just have within Engine Hire a different setting to just manage either Reno or Las Vegas. They're just separate within the portal. And when a booking request comes in, we just staff it with a Reno or a Vegas nanny, depending on what location they're needing. And it's now that we're in a good rhythm, and we've kind of learned how to market out there and, how to be active within the community, even from afar, that has definitely been helpful. Google is our number one friend. Everyone finds us from Google, and the more we put into Google, the higher results we receive, quite frankly.
And then talk a little bit about getting yourself out of the business, especially as the business has grown. Like, I know you and I talked about, like, we were hanging out in person and you received a call. It was about, let me see, 11 o'clock at night, I think. And I was giving you a bit of a hard time for that. But you recently replaced yourself on that. So that's awesome. But talk a little about, like, kind of the challenges of doing that, replacing yourself.
Oh, yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, just like even when I first started the company, just placing my trust in someone, knowing that they might not love and cherish the business as much as I do, which is an unrealistic expectation for me to ask. I think that was really hard for me because I knew what pride I took in my company and the customer and employee experience that I wanted. And I didn't really know what company culture was at that time. And I feel like since I've built that, we just make sure that it checks the boxes of what we look for as our culture. And if it doesn't match it, it's not for us. It's nothing personal. It's just not for us. And so I think since we really started instilling company culture, which EO actually kind of brought to my attention, it was a thing, it has been absolutely fantastic. And when I first had started in hiring someone and just learning like, I do all of this. Now, here's all the things I do. What do you want to do? And that's kind of just how I started making positions on like, what do you thrive in? Are you really great at marketing? Are you really great at billing? Are you fantastic with customers? What is it? And then just really having them excel in that role. And that's how I've created the 3 full-time positions we have in the office here today. And then, like you said, when we were out going to our little Kansas venture together, answering the phone, our service is 24/7. Our clients know that they can contact us anytime that they need us. That's really important that they have that support at all times. And so we obviously do not have someone in the office outside of the typical 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I was the one taking all of the calls at 11 p.m., 5 a.m., weekends, it's me. And that definitely caused a burnout factor for myself because I felt like I could just never be fully present in my personal relationships. And that was really, really challenging. So on Monday, I just hired a fantastic woman who is doing our after hours, and I am so forever grateful, and I'm excited to see the stress that it takes off my plate because I just know it's going to take off a lot.
That is great. Yeah, it's funny. Those little things make such a big difference for, your own personal satisfaction. And you also recently opened a housekeeping location for a different housekeeping service, which is different from childcare. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my little sister, she's 21. She's been working for me for about a year and some change now. She was really into just the housekeeping side of things. We constantly get clients asking us for referrals, so we thought we might as well just send them our way and provide the service that's needed. And it's been a huge difference with nannies, for example. The nannies go, they don't need any supplies, they don't need vacuums, they don't need all of these different things. And so I've just never had to look at the overhead outside of our payroll and admin costs. And so actually looking at, okay, how much simple green are we using per house? How many vacuums are we needing to buy a week? Like, how does that break into our margin? What does that look like? That has been such a vastly different experience for me. It's definitely a challenge, and it was in the beginning. And I think like just the quoting and everything is so different because we quote per hour for nannies, we quote per job for housekeeping. You never know what you're walking into.
You gotta see how big it is, how messy it is, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot different, much different. But we're just trialing and error. That's my whole life, trial and error, and it will become a thing, and we'll figure it out at some point.
Do you see you going into any other related or maybe not related areas?
Yeah, so my goal is definitely to either franchise or just own and put the right people in place and delegate into all 50 states. I would love to just be in every single, city and state possible that really needs our care. What's really special about us is for special needs families, we are state funded through Respite and PALCO, which are just these funds that families can utilize to where some don't even have to pay out a cost for our service, which that's my passion. And that's what really warms my heart, fills my cup. And I would just love for that to be the case in every state, because I know it's such a needed resource.
Yeah, for sure. What are you most excited about so we're recording this in middle of 2024. You got the housekeeping service, you got the Las Vegas location. Like, as you look at the second half of the year, what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about just building community and more support systems that help us flourish. Like EO has been fantastic for me. And just expanding and seeing what cities and states we want to get into and just getting after it and, putting our all into it.
That's great. And I want to wrap up with my gratitude question. So I'm a big fan of gratitude, especially expressing gratitude to those who've helped you along the way. I know there is Megan, who's been a mentor to you, maybe some others that you would acknowledge as well, but who would you want to recognize?
Yeah, I definitely would want to recognize Megan. She was a mentor for me when I first started my business about a year in. She actually found out about my agency, flew down here and helped me rebrand. Our branding was rough when I first started. I made the logo and I am not artistic.
What was the first brand? Was it still Lifetime of Love or something else?
It was still Lifetime of Love, but it was like a blob of blue in the background in cursive, and it looked horrendous. So she helped us with that, with our website, just everything, contracts, like legality. And she's just been someone I always know if I have questions regarding the industry. She's so knowledgeable that I can call her. She really helped me to not feel alone. And I think that was a huge awakening for me, because I felt really alone in my business when I first started. And so having someone that was supportive and was 20 years ahead of me in the game just was a huge eye opener for me. And I'm still in contact with her to this day. She's a dear friend of mine, and I'm forever grateful for her support.
How did you connect with her? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, she was actually mentoring another agency, and they were looking for someone to provide nanny care in Tahoe. And so she found me online, called me, we got to talking, and I was like, listen, you sound like you know what you're talking about. I need help. And so she flew down here from North Carolina about a week later and stayed at my house with me and worked 14-hour days with me and just completely turned things around. So yeah, she's a gem. I'm so appreciative of her.
And the logo is great now. Your website looks super slick. So lifetimeoflovenannies.com. It's got a cute little, looks like a dragonfly flying around it there. So people have to go check that out. And where can people go, Carson, to learn more about you, connect with you, learn more about the business?
Yeah, lifetimeoflovenannies.com. We are also on Facebook at Lifetime of Love Nannies, as well as Instagram.
Excellent. Carson, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, John.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.